What if the Dark Lord has already won? What if the hero failed 1,000 years ago and now the world we live in is just the aftermath? That's the point where Mistborn begins. And somehow the plan to fix this comes from a thief? Let's set the scene. Imagine living in a dark world where everything is stacked against you, where you and everyone like you are marked with the name skaa, condemned to live as a slave, while the nobles are blessed with luxury and abundance, thanks to the laws of the seemingly immoral dictator known as the Lord Ruler. And one day, someone not only saves your life, but offers you a way to change this whole fucked up system. That alone is enough to get you interested, isn't it? Well, that's just one of the many reasons I couldn't stop reading this goddamn book. The prose is simple, fast, clear. It helps you understand everything, and everything does make sense. The characters work incredibly well together. When the entire cast interact with each other, it just feels memorable. The power system. I gotta talk about Allomancy real fast here, and it's because it affects everything in the story and it's everywhere in the Mistborn world. Meaning it affects the outcome, but at the same time affects everything regarding the social structure of Scadrial. Allomantic powers come from within the user and are inherited by a small percentage of the population. This is an inherited ability to consume and burn metals. Each specific metal allows you to activate each specific power. Iron, for example, allows an Allomancer to pull on metal objects, and steel allows them to push on metal objects. There's a simple rule here, and the force of the push or pull is more or less equivalent to the weight of the user. So if you're pushing on something bigger or heavier than you, you're just gonna be fucking flung away. Other metals are able to affect emotions. Brass allows you to soothe emotions, calming people, suppressing feelings like anger, and zinc allows you to riot them, inflammating emotions, amplifying whatever they are feeling right now. And there are more metals you'll find along the way. There are two types of Allomancers. There are the Mistings, who can use one of the allomantic metals, and there are the Mistborns, those who are able to use all the allomantic metals. All of the Allomancers should be only found in those blessed by the Lord Ruler. Those are the nobles. They are supposed to be blessed and be above everyone else. We're in Scadrial. This is a dark place where everything seems kind of post-apocalyptic. Everything happens within the final empire, a place ruled by the mysterious Lord Ruler. This is basically an entity. He's seen as a god, king, and basically the ultimate authority. He rarely appears in public, but legend says he saved humanity 1,000 years ago against this unknown entity called the Deepness. Since then, there has been 1,000 years of rule. According to lore, those who helped him defeat the enemy of humanity were the ancestors, or who are now the nobles. That's why he blessed them with the ability to use the allomantic powers. But as I said, the world has this kind of post-apocalyptic feeling to it. The sun is red, the tones are a bit more brownish, there's ash falling from the sky constantly, and there's no greenery. Old stories spoke of when the world was green, when plants grew freely and they were green, and there were these crazy colored plants named flowers. There was even a time where ash wasn't falling from the sky. In this incredibly dark world, we have the skaa, who are basically slaves that work mainly in smithies or plantations, or even as servants in the nobles' houses. But those who are not too happy with their situation and choose to act otherwise become rebels, scammers, thieves, and basically anything you can relate to the underworld. But as you can imagine, being a rebel is kind of a tough business when you're ruled by an entity considered a god. So whilst skaa try to survive and the nobles squabble against each other for power and influence, we have a third party in how society works here. And those are the obligators and the inquisitors. The obligators are more of the administrative branch. They act as witnesses for deals and stuff like that. And then there are the steel inquisitors. You know, the name has such a cute ring to it. Look at this guy. Look at this buttercup. Their work is a bit more dark. I mean, the name says it. And they simply hunt people. Hunt those who act and whose existence seems to go against the will of the Lord Ruler. Allomancy is a power for the nobles, but the nobles, well, they got used to do everything they wanted to do, including taking skaa women. There's a non-spoken rule that if they did the act, they were to disappear the woman, and there was an obligation to not let her have kids. If this were to happen, both the woman, the kids, and the noble had to be taken care of by an inquisitor. But this didn't always work out, did it? Because we wouldn't have much of a story if it worked perfectly. And that's how we know our crew. We have Kelsier, one of the protagonists. He's a 40-year-old dude that has survived the most horrendous shit that can happen to someone in the Final Empire. He's the one who has the craziest plans imaginable. And to top his insanity off, he is a Mistborn. We have the responsible one, who, you'll understand later, says his work is to make Kelsier's dream come true. And that one is Doxon. He doesn't have allomantic powers, but he's incredibly effective. We have the smooth talker, Breeze Ham, who's for some reason the strong philosopher, and we have the incredibly polite scholar, Sazet. He's my favorite one, and even though he's the most easygoing of the group, you'll understand later that he's not as easygoing as you imagine, and there are a lot more complexities than whatever you can see, at least in the first book. And then we have Vin. She's the newest addition to the group, and she's a Mistborn as well. She barely survived until Kelsier came along. Kelsier and Vin are the protagonists, and a lot of what happens here is surrounding them and the relationship, how the master-apprentice relationships develops and how they face their inner demons. Kelsier spent 2 years in the pits of Hatzin and barely survived, and after escaping, you'll see how important that part is later, he goes back to his crew and decides to take on this job. Vin, on the other hand, is just 16-year-old. She survived scraping by with her older brother who abandoned her not long ago. He trained her and drilled into her the idea of surviving in the underworld, where a 16-year-old girl shouldn't have survived. Her strategy was simple: to be competent and to be invisible. One day, Kelsier realizes her abilities and saves her, taking her in as his apprentice. From there, everything escalates. Mistborn starts with a simple question: what happens when the Dark Lord wins? But what makes the story special is not the world, it's the people willing to challenge it. And somehow, Brandon Sanderson turns the story of thieves, slaves, and a fallen world into one of the best introductions to fantasy ever.